One of the reasons that China is where China is today, challenging the Americans, posing a security challenge for us here in India, is because it decided to fuse its military establishment with its civil establishment. How did China do this?
The remarkable thing here is common sense. Sam, dam, dand, bhed. That is it. If you are a startup in China, your first orders will be given to the military, the PLA. China or USA इतना आगे निकल गए हैं that to get to them, CMR has to move towards CMF.
Or
fusion.
So no longer civil-military relations,
It's
but
passé.
civil-military fusion, which China, you think, is the master of right now.
So national security is now an arena of high-grade talent. If we have to beat China, we have to get Asundar Pichai's back, or Satya Nadella's back.
General Shukla, your extremely scholarly and masterful articulation of civil-military fusion as a way of reimagining strategic power really taught me so much. But above all, it, I think, gives all of us pause because, as you say, the assumption has always been in democracies that military ek taraf, civil establishment dusri taraf. And what you're actually arguing, I think with great examples, is that one of the reasons that China is where China is today, challenging the Americans, posing a security challenge for us here in India, is because it decided to fuse its military establishment with its civil establishment. This is the central thesis of your book. So let's start there. How did China do this? Give us a few examples, whether it is companies not working for profit but working for the Chinese government, whether it is their 1,000 talent program where they're recruiting the finest sort of contemporary scientific and technology minds from all over the world, right? Whether it is the Chinese, quote unquote, infiltration of Silicon Valley in America. Where do we start with this China smartness in fusing civil and military establishments?
Well, first of all, Barkha, thank you for reading the book.
It was a pleasure to read it, sir.
I know the things that you're quoting means you read the book. So, I don't know where to start. I thought I'll start from my personal journey of CMF, but let's start with China and we'll get to
Yeah.
that. So, see, CMF in China. Firstly, they call it...
CMF is Civil Military Fusion.
What do they call it? Military Civil Fusion.
Which means they privilege the military over the
Perhaps
civilian.
It is military-led, perhaps. And I was amazed. President Xi advocates the cause in an aphorism, which he says, why build walls of granite between cylinders of excellence? Common sense.
Yeah.
Then he proceeds. MCF has been in their veins for a while, but it was first...
And do they actually call it MCF? Military Civil Fusion?
They call it military civil fusion. And it was in the Hu Jintao, Jiang Zemin era, where, in fact, I have an interesting anecdote to tell you about how the Varyag carrier was procured, MCF.
I think
that is brilliant.
I have to pause you there because I have to first simplify the story for our audience and then ask you to tell us that story.
Okay. So
there is a basketball player
exactly
who masquerades as a billionaire tycoon on behalf of China and then ends up purchasing an aircraft carrier from Ukraine.
Absolutely. So let's start.
Oh my God, there's so many stories. Okay.
So today we are all amazed at, China's 3 aircraft carriers, super air carriers, stealth, F-35s flying out of them, electromagnetic power and those catapults and all. But do you know in 97, 98, not too far back, because these carriers take a very long time.
Yeah.
They didn't have even one carrier and they were scouting the world for carriers. And they come to know that there is Varyag, if I pronounce it right, Varyag, is a carrier lying in a Ukrainian shipyard. अब उसको ले कैसे? क्योंकि military purposes के लिए कोई देगा नहीं. So the Chinese decide, they pick up a guy called Zhu Zhengping. He's a basketball player from the Guangzhou military region. And why him? Because he's tall, nice looking. So they say कि ये बंदा जो है, he will pose as a business tycoon and tell the Ukrainians that they want this carrier to build a floating casino in Macau. सही कहानी है. And this is from Rush Doshi's book. I first read it there, and of course then it's gone viral. And so what does he do? What do? They buy him a $30 million villa in Hong Kong, which is financed by the Huaxai Bank, which is a state bank. So it is state, civil military fusion. And he sets up offices in Kiev and Beijing. So जब वो लोग आते हैं तो लगता है बड़ा business empire है. And in some of those Chinese magazine, he poses with nice looking women and all to give that whole image.
Yeah.
Actually, he was fronting for an aircraft carrier. And when he says, no, there are no military motivations and all that. But to cut a long story short, he goes to Ukraine and he manages to buy that carrier. But the Chinese tell him, no, not the carrier, the blueprints of the carriers. So deep. It takes him another 2 to 3 years. He gets the carrier and the blueprints. And then the carrier is, it moves from Ukraine to Ankara, where it gets stuck in a whole lot of bureaucracies, as usually happens. Now, who steps in? The president of China, Jiang Zemin. He flies to Ankara, sorts it out, and of course offers the Chinese market access and all that. So the remarkable thing here is common sense. Sam, dam, dand, bhed. That is it. We, in my view, actually, let me now tell you. Anecdotally, my dad used to tell me, or somebody in my family, it's in my head, Saraswati, Lakshmi or Durga ka Mishra. Look how brilliant what it was. It meant invest in centers of academic excellence, research and development, so Nalanda kind of universities, Allahabad, which was the Oxford of the East. Real good academic institutions, which will turn out talent and technologies. हमारा talent USA जा रहा है, क्योंकि यहाँ ecosystem ही नहीं है. और सरस्वती जब आपकी इतनी अच्छी होगी, then you will create Lakshmi, which is a very respectful thing. India में unfortunately business is not, it is idiotic because our civilization tells us Lakshmi is to be respected. तो सरस्वती, Lakshmi और Lakshmi से कुछ पैसे लगाइए दुर्गा में. Instruments of power. Now, I have not seen it in any text, but it just struck me. This is exactly what China is doing.
So let's start.
Just one point I want to make. So I'm saying, and let me quote this. So acquisition in China began in not some DPP or those great documents. It was at the convergence of strategic deception, which is in their statecraft, state funding, commercial fronting, diplomatic maneuvering, and state intervention. And that was one example, and there are millions of examples. This Chinese State Shipbuilding Corporation is the poster child of civil military fusion.
So a figure that I learned from your book is the following, that the Chinese State Shipping Corporation has built more ships than the Americans have since the end of the Second World War.
बिल्कुल. अब ये देखिए, this is a fascinating example. Somebody has called it the poster child of military civil fusion. तो इन्होंने क्या है, the Chinese State Shipping Corporation. हमारे यहाँ देखिए क्या है, naval shipyards, civil shipyards. अलग.
Right.
अलग ही दुनिया में है.
Right.
There they have got 4 tiers, tier 1, tier 2, which does the PLA stuff. 3, 4 is commercial. It is so cleverly designed that tier 1 and 2, which has only 15% of shipyards, has 40% of output. मतलब जो पैसा आ रहा है, जो technology आ रही है 3, 4 में, it is fed into tier 1 and 2. So CSSC is not only powering global commerce.
CSSC is the
Chinese State Shipbuilding Corporation.
Right.
Global commerce and world-class navy. तो जो tonnage है, in 2024, they produced more tonnage than the Americans have produced since World War II. And they are also heading towards a 400, 500 ship navy. So global commerce, world-class navy. They are leveraging their extensive commercial network to boost Chinese naval modernization. Now, this is it. हर चीज़ में, मैं आपको एक और example देख खत्म करता हूँ. Look at our approach to startups. We've also done, it's been, the Prime Minister's favorite.
Yeah.
But ours is startups, regulation. अब ये पैसा आ रहा है तो इनको regulate करो. वो क्या करते हैं? If you are a startup in China, your first orders will be given to the military, the PLA. If you are particularly good, I will hold your hand till commercial viability. कि आप market में खेल तो सको. And if you are brilliant, I will say, come to me.
Yeah.
Together, एक minute, we will destroy the competing American startup.
Yeah.
It is strategic. And just let me make one point. Who did this first? Who did this? It was called
America.
CMI.
America.
Before the fall of the Berlin Wall, this is fascinating. Only 6% of defense spending went to specialist defense firms, which they call traditionals. And this is from Shyam Shankar's lovely book, Unitex. The vast majority of companies had dual interests. So you will be amazed. Ford made cars and satellites. Chrysler made cars and missiles. General Mills, a cereal company, अनाज बनाती थी. It made artillery, inertial systems, and cereals.
Amazing.
So I'm saying, if we do, what is that, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Durga, Mahindra should make cars and missiles, Reliance should make geo and unmanned submarines, and Tata should make unmanned fighter jets, because that is the reality.
So क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
We adopted the other model of PSUs. They've become lazy. They're not reforming.
So let's start at the beginning. Your book quotes Fareed Zakaria talking about Nehru walking into the defense ministry, seeing men in uniform and objecting to uniformed men or officers being in what he believes is the civilian domain. And you try and locate this in a historical context. You wonder, is this because, our neighbor has had a military, neighbor being Pakistan, always the military either leading from the front or from behind the scenes? Is it the fear of coups for a new nation? We don't know what it is. Is it just a sort of a textbook idea of liberalism that there has to be great distance between the military and the civilian establishment? And one of the things I've always argued with my friends on the left, even today in 2025, is that they don't understand the military. And in not understanding the military, they actually lose connection with, I would say, millions of Indians. Now my question to you is, shuru se shuru karo. This idea, this assumption, civil and military must be kept apart. In India, where did that idea start? Did it start with the Nehruvian idea? What did it start with, according to you?
So now here the story gets personal.
Yeah.
In 2009, I joined the IDSA. I was marking time before I picked up my rank as a brigadier. And I went to do a research fellowship. The topic was some Afghanistan thing and all. The DG IDSA, Mr. Sisodia, was going to Pakistan to lecture them on the civil-military relationship. How we were wonderful and they were in absolute mess, which is partly true. So he asked me to write the script. Now, when I was writing the script, I came across some documents. For example, the Americans had tons and tons of writings on CMR in the Reagan era, CMR in the Clinton era.
CMR is?
Civil-military relationship. CMR in the Kennedy era. मैंने कहा अगर वहाँ इतनी डीप रिसर्च और इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो रही है, हमारा इतनी सिंपल क्यों है? सिविल मिलिट्री अलग कोई वो ही नहीं है. So I chanced. I started reading and I requested Mr. Sisodia to change my fellowship topic to civil military. It was Afghanistan or something, it became CMR. And in doing so, I picked up certain gems from these CMR theories. I just want to read them out to you and then relate it to Mr. Nehru. Look at this. So it drew me to conclude that CMR, it has some great practical utility, this Varya kind, but also very lofty objectives of statecraft. So I'll just pick out these sentences. One of the theorists says that vital issues of statecraft and national security are determined by the pattern of institutional interaction between the civil and military components of a nation's polity. So statecraft, choti moti baatein nahi hai. Then he said, the ordering of CMR therefore lies at the heart of a nation's security framework. Heart. And this, the third point, kuu ki baat ki. He says, while being rooted in the firm and unambiguous political control of the military. Firm and now what does this mean? There is a guy called Peter Fever, a theorist he says that the civilian in a democracy is right even when he's wrong. The civilian has a right to be wrong.
Yeah.
Meaning the military only salutes and obeys but this civilian is the political principle and not the bureaucratic agent. आप एडमिरल अरुण प्रकाश से बात करें, he'll say, when I was the chief, whenever I go to the रक्षा मंत्री and say, सर ये होना, he say बिल्कुल ठीक है, लेकिन डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी से बात कर लीजिए. The politicians chose to hear the military through the bureaucratic ear.
Yeah.
That has changed with the appointment of the CDS. That is why it was so contested, because the bureaucracy said, why do you want to hear from the military directly? People don't understand this.
And thereby excluding the military from key policy making.
Key policy making. And the tragedy in India became that while you excluded the military, the civil bureaucracy did not keep up with the trends. They were not informed enough. So the decisions were bad. And so the politicians saw that he was being harmed. And therefore, this whole CDS business. The CDS, if you ask me, is the Sutradhar, actually. He is the government's point or point of interaction between the civil and the military. And now this is the key. While being rooted in the firm and unambiguous political control of the military, a robust and vibrant relationship produces a polity that is alive to the nuances of national security and wise to the uses of military power. एक मिनट, अगर आपको पता ही नहीं होगा, you will not position your instrument of force sensibly in the strategic calculus. हमारी ये विडंबना थी. And that with the CMR, with the CDS has changed. But in the meantime, as I was pointing out, China और USA इतना आगे निकल गए हैं that to get to them, CMR has to move towards CMF. Or fusion.
So no longer civil-military relations,
it's
but civil-military fusion, which China, you think, is the master of right now.
And see, because you're time and again saying China, I must point out how the US, 2008 or 9, same time, there's a guy called Robert Spalding who wrote a book called War by Stealth. He was pointing out to the Americans that you are asleep at the wheels. See what China is doing. Suna nahi kisi ne. 2 hafte pehle, Raj Shukla has brought out a net assessment of where China stands. And they are converting them into strategic choke points like rare earths. So some of the figures are dazzling. Manufacturing twice that of China. Power generation twice. Cement 20 times. Rare earth 90% of the market. Yeah. EVs 94% of the market. आपके पास कोई cards ही नहीं बचे हैं. Because China has done CMF. And now see, what have the Americans done? Why America will still perhaps beat China, because when they wake up, they do amazing things. Now we keep banging Trump every day, but see what Trump has done. He said, why are the Chinese getting ahead of us? They said, they just fuse everything. वहाँ कोई फर्क ही नहीं है. Civil, military, ये वो जो बंदा अच्छा है उसको. You know, in the 1,000 Talents Plan, 2000, I said this on a show many times, 2003 to 7, in 60 out of 65 technologies, USA was in the lead.
Yeah.
Emerging critical. कोई नज़दीक ही नहीं था. China said, अब कैसे क्या करें, कैसे इनको लाएं? So they said, 1,000 Talents Plan. Get Nobel laureates, winners of the Turing Medal, back to China, put them into military. And all these technologies lie at the cusp of civil-military fusion. On the back of the 1,000 Talents Plan, those kind of stuff, 2019-23, China leads in 57 out of 65. 60-65, 57-65. This is all civil-military fusion.
Your book also talks about deception, strategic deception being key to China's sort of fusion of civil-military. In this 1,000 Talents Plan, they appear to have, I learned this from your book, recruited somebody in Silicon Valley.
That is from Spies, Lies and all. I've put it down.
And the Americans list that entity as a possible, whatever, Chinese agent. And the man is found dead a few days later.
So they've done everything in the book, from honey traps to this, that, to get talent. You know, see now, so let me make one more point. I hear many people, they say, sir, civil-military fusion. ऐसा करते हैं सर, ये है ना, ये सेमिनार कर देते हैं, DRDO वालों को बुला लेते हैं. Of course, that is the beginning. But what I'm trying to point out, civil-military fusion is guile in statecraft, chaturai, vivek. It is hard choices. So let me give you the example of theatre commands. Theatre commands is not just about air power. Look at the wisdom of Mr. Subramanian. When I was in IDSA, he used to come, one of the sharpest minds, Barkha. He was the first guy who made an argument for the CDS was not a Fauji. It was Subramanian. People like General Davar, Brigadier Gurmeet Kanwal. You know how they fashioned it? I remember they said, we need a DIA, director of DIA, 3-star.
Yeah.
He should make the Indian military look outwards. And who will once he refashions intelligence, who will do the operations part of it? The theatre commanders. So the Western theatre commander has a quasi-diplomatic visage. He looks at Afghanistan, Iran, addresses those threats before they come to your border. हम कब जागेंगे जब LC पे कुछ होगा. Similarly, the Eastern Theatre Commander must look at Myanmar, Bangladesh.
But Theatre Command still this date is facing some sort of resistance, disagreement within the forces. The Air Chief is on record saying that there is a sort of maybe another way to do this, that air power needs to be wielded from a centralized place. So it's not settled, this debate.
No, I'll tell you. So it's a good point. Firstly, the Air Chief has not discounted theatre commands.
No, he just suggested an alternative model to it.
In the wake of Sindoor, we learned some lessons. Of course, redesign it. But see, theatre commands, repeating this argument, is not merely about air power. Look at what happened just now. Who opened the streets of Washington and the doors of White House for Munir, for Shehbaz Sharif to follow in? Kuruvilla, CNC, CENTCOM. Why do we not have a 3-star in CENTCOM? We are a big country. One in there, one in IPACOM. Military diplomacy matters.
Yeah.
It matters. In our neighborhood, when we are in a whole lot of trouble, the one relationship that worked in Nepal and Bangladesh is the military. So, foreign policy has 2 pillars, force and diplomacy. Diplomacy is, of course, very important, but it must leverage force too. So, it is now, you see, civil-military fusion, as I say, is a sophisticated argument. It has to be understood in its end. जब आप समझेंगे ही नहीं, air power is just one speck in the larger sand of this.
Yeah.
And see, look at the journey we have to follow. आप military को ले लें and we'll take it to the civil domain. We are what the USA was in 1949. When they had a permanent chairman, हमारे पास CDS है. अभी आपको Gulf War 1 से गुजरना है, जब network centricity हुई. Digital theatres हुए, Gulf War II, and there was integration when a Bradley commander could call the fire of an F-16. Then cross-pollination. The offices of the Raksha Mantri, the CDS must reflect domain specialization. Strategic communications. Why should somebody like you from the media world not be doing strategic communications? The military doesn't understand that business.
Yeah.
और अगर आप नहीं करेंगे, there will be consequences like it happened.
अभी Sindoor में भी
a marvelous military victory was undermined at the altar of poor strategic communications. So consequences हैं आपके, they are in your face, and the others are doing it. They are doing civil military. You know, and so there was this quote we were discussing offline. The mistake that we have made is to create these divisions. I mean, somebody said a society which draws a sharp distinction between its soldiers and its scholars will have its thinking done by cowards and fighting done by fools.
I love it.
And see, Barkha, in this book, I have paid a tribute. One reason I wrote this book was, most people dedicate their books to their wives and all that kind of stuff. I've dedicated it to my peers, my superiors like General Dua, who just walked out, and my subordinates who encouraged in me the spirit of inquiry, research, investigation. This is just research. This is just research. The power of it I realized.
Yeah.
And it is dedicated to this, entire body. It is a misnomer that intellectualism is not encouraged in the army. In fact, today I find more intellectuals in the army than outside.
I was just going to say that.
Because we are encouraged to do it. And let me give you one example. So I say it is this tradition of Shaurya or Vivek. Even when, people like, say, a combat soldier does not have the benefit of higher education, but he has dose of combat wisdom. So I'll give you an example. I've been doing this reading and writing for a while. So when I was army commander, I would be flying here and there. And say I had to write a speech or something. I've quoted, not in the book, but otherwise I'm saying. There was a boy with me called Thapa from the Gurkhas. वो सामने आएगा ना, तो if you tell him something, you don't even, when he replies, you don't even understand कि समझा है कि नहीं, mumble something. It's typical. But if I told him at the night कि Thapa, वो किताब पढ़ी है किसिंगर साहब की Genesis, उसको निकाल के रखना. He'll tell me, साहब, आप कल उसका बात कर रहा था? मैं हाँ. When I would come back, Barkha, he would flag the page.
No.
It amazed me. endlessly. And so many other instances. अच्छा sir, आप कल वहाँ कर रहा था, ये मैंने निकाल के. Now just imagine, if you do this stuff, if you have your research done for you, you come back, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
तो ये है army. So I am saying, there is a unique ethos in the Indian military which encourages thinking like men of action and acting like men of thought. तो जब लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं ना कि like say when we were young, our CEOs told us, win the hockey match. Also in the morning, your talk must be the best, your presentation must be the best. This in excellence business, which never drew a distinction. We were always this all-round demeanor.
That's right.
And that is, so important. Ab humne we have created these oxymorons. Thinking general. What damn general if you can't think? Just imagine. So yes, a nonsense has been created, which must go. Because our original thinking, our ethos is of Shaurya or Vivek.
Yeah.
And so that is one reason I wrote this book. I've dedicated to this whole body. I'm extremely grateful. All these traits have been mentored in me by the military, by my superiors. I can quote people by the dozen.
Your book also talks about the changing nature of war. And I think you quoted an American general to say that it is the most cataclysmic change that we have seen in recent times.
Wow, you really read the book. Thank you.
Yes. So, from Ukraine being able to send in the sort of drones to Israel being able to set off pagers, you talk about how Elon Musk, Starlink, is as intrinsic to the Ukraine war as the sort of young volunteers of Ukraine who are taking on Russia, how technology is transforming how wars are going to be fought. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So see, it's so amazing. World War II. If you think of World War II, people will say Patton, Montgomery. 71 will be Sam Mannix-Shaw, perhaps Sagat. 65 will be Harbach. Who are the generals of Ukraine?
I don't know.
Elon Musk. I'm telling you, Alex Karp, Palmer Luckey. And how did it happen? This is a fascinating story. When the Russians attack the Ukrainians, 2022, they don't have a navy or an air force. Imagine. Yeah. And 3.5 years, they have kept world's best military powers at bay. All on the back of civil-military fusion and technological innovation. Without the former, the latter would not have happened. So let's give you an example. So they just pick up these wedding drones and they are, kind of, कि यार इससे कुछ होगा. And somebody puts a camera and a chip, the beginning of computer vision. अब कहते हैं यार ये जाके surveillance तो हो जाती है. And immediately the Russians, around that time, the Russians jammed the GPS signals. Now they don't know what to do. They don't, fixing targets and all. So people put better AI chips and they find that these drones can auto-navigate. Then they find that they can auto-track targets, select targets with better AI. Ukraine mein dronery, the art and science of dronery has been discovered by civil-military fusion. When they have these successes, the Ukrainian infantry battalions induct 2 AI engineers and 2 data engineers. When these guys come and see, they bring their technological knowledge to the combat zone. They make amazing things. You see, aapki battery itni kharab kyun? They improve the battery. The drones which were ranging 100 kilometers are ranging 3,000 kilometers. Then they said, जब आपके drones खराब होते हैं आप पीछे क्यों भेजते हो? They set up workshops there. So if your drone misses the target on Friday, they redesign it, 3D print it. Next day it's back on the battlefield.
But who are the brains? What are the brains?
These are the guys. Now I'll do this. So good example. Alex Karp, Palantir. He just senses a business opportunity. He says, एक लड़ाई छिड़ी है. मेरे लिए business क्या है? Palantir is, by the way, it's a company funded by CIA Venture Fund. CIA ka. But anyway, it's a great technological
CIA has a venture fund.
Of course. So RDIA should have a venture fund. What do the Chinese do? Civil military fusion. So he goes across, he seeks a meeting with Zelensky. तो कौन meeting देता है? मिला ही नहीं. Now this is entrepreneurship. A PSU guy will never do it. He walks and drives across Poland and lands up in Kyiv. तो उसको पता लगता है कि भाई आया है अब तो मिलना ही है. He tells Zelensky कि sir, just give me all your data. जो आपका combat data. I will give you AI-enabled services free. That is the contract. And what has he done? Patrius, when he visits that place, says the Ukrainian command and control system designed by Alex Karp is better than the American JETC. This is what technological brains can do, and it shouldn't surprise you. Alex Karp has now written a book called Technology Republic, where his argument is that we Americans must abandon their soft beliefs, embrace hard power, not waste digital talent in apps and, pizza apps, but national security if you have to beat the Chinese. So look how the argument is evolving. It came from here. Bina Alex Karp ke, Palmer, Luckey, वगैरह के, ये Elon Musk. People say, he's controversial, but people say he's the brightest engineer since Edison. Uska dimag yahan lag raha hai. So national security is now an arena of high-grade talent. If we have to beat China, we have to get Asundar Pichai's back, or Satya Nadella's back.
And how will we do that?
Now we have to do it. The good point is, like in our technology missions, I believe the Prime Minister has given directions. Why are you semiconductor mission, MOD color, integrate them. So the technology missions should be one. AI, quantum and all that. We have to get our talent back. As I have said, in some ways we have regressed. The NSCS, जब उसकी स्थापना हुई थी, तो उसका विजन था कि 50% सरकारी होंगे हम जैसे बाबू, और 50% will be non-government, because we made it full government. We are regressing. So our problem is tribalism. Till we cannot, the time
don't give up our turfs, basically.
And now the time has come. If you don't give up your turfs, people may force you to give up yours. See what's happening in USA. Old school diplomacy in the Middle East has failed.
Yeah.
They are bringing in this business, technologically driven diplomacy. हर जगह ये होगा. If you don't overcome your tribalism.
Yeah.
So it is not a choice. It is now a warning to the Army, Navy, Air Force, everybody. You just have to break these silos and come together in the national security.
You're right about the chip.
Yes.
The chip that powers our toaster or our microwave is also what's going to drive
drones
modern
and missiles,
and therefore modern war.
I'm quoting that guy. He's a lovely book, Chris Miller.
Now China dominates the chip industry, right?
Yes.
So now let's talk about chips.
Exactly. See now, while we have taken off, what is that, Vikram 32 and all that, you look where the AI competition is growing. It is not even LLMs now. It is agentic AI. The nature of intelligent systems is changing. AI, if you look what now, though this, with this Ashley Tellis bit, this security clearance is controversial. But Eric Schmidt,
of the co-founder of
Google has been given top secret clearance. I'm told his clearance is in the same league as the chairman Joint Chiefs. Why? So that he can be given operational plans and he can fashion technology around them. 2 months back, Hexit signed an order. Okay, this is very interesting. He said, why can't we get these civilians in? So the military said, sir, how can we share data with them? We can't share information. He said, why? Oh, so they are civilians, this, that. He said, what do we do? No answer. In one order, the CTO of Palantir, Meta, Thinking Machines Lab, and one more, Scale AI. CTOs, civilians, have been inducted as lieutenant colonels and colonels. And the military has been told, now they are colonels, share the data, give them access to the ops rooms, and they will fashion technology. This is DET 201, what is called. So the militaries now have to have the humility to say कि ये जो high grade technologies हैं, ये हमारे engineers नहीं कर पाएंगे. ये बाहर से आना पड़ेगा. Is this not? So see what is happening now in sense of civil military fusion. The war fighter, the technologist Elon Musk, the entrepreneur Alex Karp, the theater of war and the marketplace have to come together. See, just two more orders, things that have happened. Drone and Hexit said, Hexit and Trump said, why are we lagging in drones? Everybody else is. There's a problem, procurement. One order. Colonels and equivalents in USA today can test, procure and induct drones directly without all this bureaucracy. See how game changing?
Yeah.
And they have created a military marketplace like we have any marketplace. So if I can put up my camera, my latest AI system on the site, a CO can put an order directly. No bureaucracies, no GSQR.
So direct procurement.
Yes. All this is fusion. Why? Because they realize that the Chinese are getting it. The problem is that democratic systems like ours, we have read Clausewitz. So Clausewitz says, trickery, deception, these are weapons of the weak. Sun Tzu says they are weapons of choice. Chanakya, or whoever said Sam Nam Dand Bhed, Bharat Karnad argues that in the foreign policy strategic affairs space, it was national interest by means fair or foul.
Yeah.
Foul. तो हमको अपना we'll have to shed our strategic innocence. ये जो हमारी नादानी है, ये जानी पड़ेगी. Or you will not be able to compete here.
Yeah.
So this is the whole. So I'm saying it sounds simplistic. Actually, it's an argument of guile. It's an argument of deep sophistication in statecraft. कि भाई, you have to get these things together while protecting our democratic instincts. That's equally important. We can't go the way of China. But we can find a mid-path. The problem with what you were pointing out, that say pre-1990 era, was that I've heard very senior bureaucrats say this. We are not bothered about what your combat, shall we say, your relative combat position with China. Process chalega. तो जब उनसे पूछा गया भाई प्रोसेस या आउटकम, बोला प्रोसेस. तो बोला हम हार जाएंगे, बोला हार जाओ. I've heard this. Really. Now that has to change, and that is changing.
So let's at the end apply this to India. Where do we start? What has changed? What still has to change? Where are the gaps?
So see, firstly, I think that my argument is what? Look at Pakistan. It has still not settled those basic issues of CMR. They may keep posturing.
But Pakistan, the civilians are irrelevant. Pakistan का problem उल्टा है.
नहीं, but उल्टा है. But it is fundamental. जब तक वो relationship sort out नहीं होगी, they will keep doing silly things.
Correct.
If you actually ask me, they are out of strategic balance. We are in a happy space where that first argument is settled.
Yeah.
मतलब कोई ये तो शक नहीं करता कि राज शुक्ला coup कर लेगा, वो कर ही नहीं सकता है. Now when that our first phase of CMR was devoted to coup proofing.
Yeah.
Perhaps at that time, and this was happening all around, it was a legitimate fear. Now it is a silly excuse.
Why was it a legitimate fear then?
Because perhaps you had to coup-proof. Because idhar-udhar ho rahi thi cheezein. I mean, people have written about Thimaya, after Thimaya, who and all that. So the political class, when it feared the military, Manekshaw ke baare mein log baat karte the, it was a fear at that time, and perhaps legitimate.
You think? I don't
See, I've done a greater amount of research on this. Sam Manekshaw and Indira Gandhi enjoyed an extraordinary equation.
That's what I think. So I don't
extraordinary,
think... I don't think...
But she was constantly told by her bureaucrats that, beware.
Well, because he
There is a very interesting incident.
Because he was as big a personality as her.
It's a big... So there is that anecdotal story, which may be true, that one day he's called by Indira Gandhi and he goes in and she is looking annoyed, and he tells her, Madam Prime Minister, what's happened now? What have I done? And she says, Sam, Madam, you are annoyed. Why? He says, because of you. So he says, why? So I'm told the IB or somebody had given her pictures of Sam dancing somewhere. And he says, this is my daughter I was dancing about. But you see, I'm trying to tell you, he was so powerful, he was so charismatic that even Indira Gandhi, who liked him, and by the way, her fondness for him is not when he becomes Field Marshal. When she sees him at GOC 4 Court, it's a very interesting story. When 62, we are down in the dumps after 62, Manekshaw in his flamboyant way says, I would have gone home as a Major General. The Chinese came to my rescue. So they're looking for good generals, and Manekshaw is promoted. By the way, he was, at that time being persecuted by Krishna Menon. He was almost out, but he's back in business and he goes to 4 Corps. He looks dramatic. I keep making this point that unfortunately, हमने Manekshaw को flamboyant बना दिया. He was a deeply substantive man. He goes there and gives a one-line order. He says, gentlemen, I have arrived. Henceforth, there will be no withdrawals. Now imagine post-62, people are coming back.
Yeah.
Nehru has given that speech of bye-bye Assam. And he says, go up. So the news travels to Delhi. The posts are being reoccupied. General Chaudhary, the chief, Prime Minister Nehru, and Indira Gandhi, who's nobody, but Nehru's daughter, they travel to Tejpur. And iske plans sunte hain. He's, refurbishing the posts on the LAC and all that. So Nehru tells General Chaudhary, yaar isko samjhao, abhi itne log mare vare hain. This is not the time to up the ante. General Chaudhary tells Sam. Sam says, this is my way of doing things. You don't like me, send me back to Wellington. And in the process of the conversation, Indira Gandhi tells her father that when most of the generals are fleeing, here is one guy prepared to stand up. And she first, or he catches her eye then as a man of, substance. And people say that she positions him as the chief to do 71. Sam Manekshaw was the CDS that we never had.
Yeah.
And now let me give you a story of this tribalism bit. One anecdote comes to my mind. There was a guy called General S.K. Sinha, who was overlooked by Indira Gandhi, and General Vaidya was made the chief. Sinha was a brilliant chap, Western Army commander, tipped to be the chief, and he doesn't make it. And very gracefully he says, Vaidya is a fine soldier, retires, and then he becomes governor and all. This is, by the way, his centenary year, 100 years.
Yeah.
He's the son of Yash Sinha, the diplomat, father of Yash Sinha, the diplomat.
Oh, right. Yeah.
My encounter with him, tribalism. So when I was the Commandant Army War College, I called him for a talk. So he told, the message came that he's too old, he can't travel to Mao, but if you guys ever come to Delhi, he'll be glad to speak. So the High Command Course came to Delhi and he spoke. Barkha, see, I've come for your show, I've got notes. This man, he's speaking on the High Defense Organization, from the days of, Chandragupta to the Kitchener-Curzon dispute, to the American experience, without a piece of paper. Firstly, 1 hour, 15 minutes. He was from the Gurkhas. So he was there, I was there, and I think the commandant was there. So somebody asked him a question about the CDS. CDS had not been appointed in India. So I thought, Gurkhas, ye bolega Sam Manekshaw. He gets up, tribalism. And he says, of course we should have had a CDS. But in my view, this first CDS should not have been Field Marshal Manekshaw, but Air Chief Marshal Lal. Now, I disagree with him wholeheartedly. I'm a big fan of Manekshaw. But the ability of a man to rise above his narrow regimental interests and say that the CDS should have been.
Yeah.
This is the ability to rise above tribalism. So, in the current context, it is a great example where we have to get over this. It is a question of breaking these silos. And once we break these silos, you see the energy that will flow, the productive energy. So, my conclusion in the book is that CMF is a glorious opportunity. We need to move towards it. If we do, it may be the secret sauce to fuel, fortify, and secure our rise.
But in the end, what specific suggestions?
So specific, I have outlined.
I know you have, but I want you to go through them.
Let me just rattle them. Theatre command should have happened as of yesterday.
So क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
Tribalism or uninformed stuff. The argument is not merely about air power.
No, but in Op Sindoor, did we not realize the value of theatre command?
We did. Theatre command is a debate of the 1990s.
Correct.
अच्छा चलिए आप मत करिए theatre command. Have you done digital integration? No. Same reasons will not come. Each time you will not get out of your silos. This whole thing, sir, हम data कैसे share करें? I give you an example. क्या हुआ? तो कोई हथौड़ा मारेगा? तो भाई खुद ही कर लो यार.
Okay, so the specifics. Yeah.
So specifics. Office of the CDS, it should reflect it. There should be a technologist, there should be an innovationist civilian. Raksha Mantri, why not? Some things have started. All our war colleges and all, civilian faculty.
Yeah.
People like Raja Mohan should be there.
Yeah.
Why should a guy like Raja Mohan not be deputy NSA in the NSCS? Tell me. He's a strategic mind. Somebody from the media space, deputy NSA strategic communications. आप 10 सुझाव में 2 तो कर दो यार. There are hundreds. The DRDO number 2.
Yeah.
If I'm a DRDO man, I'll say get a military man. He's your principal customer.
Yeah.
हमारी silo.
Yeah.
वहाँ कोई नहीं आएगा. HAL, how we have regressed. There was a time when most service chiefs, Air Force chiefs, were chairman of HAL,
That's
Bell,
right.
Air Marshal Khatre, Air Marshal Lal, General Ayappa. वहाँ भी एक नया साइलो हमने कर लिया. हर जगह साइलो. So we have retreated into the comfort of our silos. Why not DET 201? We've got people, Sridhar Vembu and all. Why can't they come into the military and drive those technologies? By the dozen, I'll give you examples. Perhaps the PMO should consider having not a bureaucrat but a strategic mind or a military officer. एक सोच है और एक बार वो शुरू हो गई, you will put the best people everywhere.
आपको कोई change नजर आ रही है उस सोच में?
CDS is the first point about it. Achha, would startups have found a place 15 years back? Meeting anybody from the business world was a career-stopping move. Today, all of them are in army headquarters. So hua?
Yeah.
Startups को इतने orders मिले हैं. Let me point out some good things also.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told you on our show many times, there are startups who got orders with the help of the Indian government, with the US Spacecom.
Yeah.
ये third high-tech वगैरह.
Yeah.
But now they have to scale up. देखो China की, what does China do? It identifies what needs to be done and scales it up so that the costs come down. हमारे यहाँ scaling up नहीं, एक दो को दे दिया हमने. Scale up होना है. So in all these areas, so many things can be done.
What finally, General Shukla, is the next war, whenever it unfolds, going to look like?
Okay, so let me say this. When the Prime Minister spoke of the Sudarshan Chakra, what was he saying in my view? In my view, he was saying that India, now that it is in the big league, its rise will be undermined by everybody, including the United States. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
It should not just surprise us.
And it's happening?
It's happening. So we now need a defense citadel. What is that defense citadel? Firstly, we need massive upgrades in our AD topology. Air power is extremely important, but it has to be a good combination of manned and unmanned. That is the lesson. So one is this. One is instrument of long-range precision, perhaps global strike. Now people say global strike, warmongering. Global strike is a capacity. It's under political control. Yeah. But don't we need it? You don't know tomorrow who will be. And two more things. Now that is the whole thing. All this will be useless unless it is fueled by all emerging technologies. AI, quantum and all that. और ये कौन कर सकता है fueling? Only civil military fusion. Those minds have to come. That talent has to come.
And the private sector of India also has to step up.
Absolutely. Private sector, I'll say one line on them. हमारा जो पूरा सुदर्शन चक्र है can be an embodiment of technology, combat prowess and civil military fusion. The spirit. Civil military fusion is ideational, structural and cultural. तीनों. जिस दिन वो हो गया, there will be nobody who will be able to touch India. But now we have to take the steps. Why can't we say, okay, these are the 5 guys in US. We will get them back at rockstar pay and put one on the AMCA, one on AI.
Absolutely.
अच्छा, हम नहीं कर सकते. इंडिया में आर्मी लगे हो, क्या है? भाई वो तो अमेरिकन हैं. तो मैं कहता हूँ अमेरिकन को छोड़ दो. चाइना वाला कर दो. नहीं सर वो तो कम्युनिस्ट हैं. तो मैंने कहा फिर अपना कर दो. वो सरस्वती लक्ष्मी दुर्गा वाला. So we just have to end our excuses. And see, so good things have happened, Atmanirbharta and defense. See, defense coming out of the shadows of foreign policy. There was a time when any general spoke and you would have newspaper articles saying lose cannons. अब तो सब बोलते हैं. So that acceptance is increasing, but it needs to now, what shall I say, scale up.
Yeah.
And the mind space needs to be fired with the energy of civil military fusion. उसकी सोच आनी चाहिए.
बिल्कुल. And I think this book will be a great start.
Hopefully.
This is General Shukla's book, Civil Military Fusion, as a metric of national power and comprehensive security. Do read it, everybody, because it has some amazing research, amazing arguments.
And the most depressing compliment I got from my wife yesterday when she picked it up, she said, "Itna lamba kyun hai heading? Civil military fusion."
Well, I'm sure a sequel will follow, which is also for sort of lay people, but it is an amazing book. Thank you, sir.
And thank you for doing this book, Barkha. And thank you for reading it. Very few people read the book. Thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Great pleasure. Thanks.